There's a bit of an argument about, well, if there's an LPC in the room, then there's no need for a chaplain.
I disagree. I'm an LPC, and you can always use more help.
Good afternoon, Brenda. It's such a great privilege to have you this afternoon.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Good. So I've been talking to you earlier. You have been in the public school as an LPC, licensed professional counselor, for about 25 years.
Yes.
Talk to me a little about that background.
I was a school teacher at first for 4 years, and then I had my babies and got my master's degree in counseling after that, and then came right back to the same school as a school counselor. So that was wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, awesome. And that was in Jenks?
At Jenks, the same school.
Perfect. So you have a myriad of experiences with the types of struggles that students could be facing. Talk to me about some that you've encountered.
It was very difficult at times. I had to go to court a few times because of family issues or abuse cases, and those were always so difficult.
And so with the counseling, did you find that you had a little bit more access to students that you wouldn't have as a
Yes,
teacher?
as a teacher, they're so busy, and they have, 25 other children. And I had a lot of kids, but I could spend more time one-on-one with them. And so that was really nice that I could get to know them a little bit more personally, and their family situation and all of that. So that was nice.
That's great. And I'm sure parents appreciated your perspective and helping to rear their children up in their mental health.
Most of the time. I think there were some parents, when there was situations that were kind of difficult or abuse cases, they didn't want me close to their child and would want to pull them out of counseling. So those were kind of hard situations, and I did have to go to court a few times.
Yes.
And those are never fun. But my main concern was the children. I wanted to make sure they were safe and weren't going to be having any issues at home.
Yes, of course. And talk to me about how you saw that benefiting the student. Do you see any success stories as a counselor, and then how they've kind of matriculated through life?
So many. In fact, it was almost my last year of when I was working in the one school, and I got a phone call from the office, and they said this young lady wanted to talk with me. And I said, okay, tell me your name. And it sounded familiar, but
you see a lot of students.
Right. And so she called back when I had a break, and she said, Mrs. Thomas, I just wanted to thank you. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm trying to go back in time, and she described herself in the situation. And then, of course, I knew, but she had been in a rough situation with her family. And after the school year was over, she moved in with her mother, and they moved away, and I never saw her again. And this was like 15 years later, and she called me just to say thank you.
Wow.
And I thought,
That's
touched
touching.
me. So I'm like, oh my goodness. So that was one of the biggest and best situations, because a lot of times these children get pulled away and you never see or hear from them again.
Yes.
But this was a young lady who took the time to call me years later and say thank you. So that was like, thank you, God, that I could do that.
That was very sweet.
Yeah.
I love when those moments come in and
Absolutely.
touch you as if your
Right.
work is very important. We were talking earlier about chaplains, and you were telling me about it was such a new concept for you. Talk to me about, I guess, how you learned about it and how then you see it bringing or bridging a gap towards each other. How can they play together?
I think that's so important, because as a school counselor, I was in charge of a whole building, which had like 400 children in it. And sometimes we'd get pulled to other buildings because I was in a very large school system. And so I think having a chaplain to come alongside to help would be so helpful, just in every situation. When they could work with the families, they could help with the counseling in so many different areas that they could be very helpful.
I guess you've obviously seen a lot of the mental health issues, and particularly with Gen Z and some of the things that we know about their struggles. Talk to me about the mental state, the barometer, I suppose.
There's so much pressure on children these days. They can't just, be having fun and playing. It's not only, a lot of parents are saying, well, you've got to get good grades, and you have to be involved, and you have to do so many things, because they're looking at scholarships. And so there's a lot of pressure on even young children to be the best. And that's really stressful for them. And so to be able to connect, sometimes a teacher would call and say, can this student come and see you? They just need some time away, which absolutely, come in. Let's draw a picture. Let's do whatever to kind of decompress and feel better.
Yes, indeed. So with the, I guess, rise in mental concerns and illnesses with students, I'm sure parents are not sure or feeling equipped, even teachers feeling that much equipped with how to handle what's going on. What advice would you give as...
Sure, and it's very hard when you've got a classroom of 30 children and you're trying to connect on every level with that, and it's almost impossible with trying to teach and everything else. You know, I would just say, love your children. Let them know that they can tell you anything, because sometimes I think parents are so busy and teachers have, 30 kids in a class. They can't always be on top of everything. So take some time just to let them know how special they are and encourage them to share anything that they're going through.
Oh,
so that was my important thing that I hope to do, to be able to do that for each child.
Yes, no, that's good. Now you're talking a bit about the teachers, and sometimes they're coming in and they're seeing students with some of the most bizarre home issues or personal concerns. How do you see a chaplain potentially assisting them with their day-to-day operations?
I think that would be fabulous. There's so many needs in the public schools especially, and teachers need that support as well. So that's another person that they can relate to, and they can come in and talk with and share, issues that they're dealing with. So I think that would be wonderful to have another person to help them through things like that.
Yes, indeed. And I like the concept of this community that's now being built. We have the parent, we have the teacher, we have the counselor, but then we have the chaplain who has a very distinct role and that can bring in a different aspect that has probably been lacking all these years.
Absolutely. Just to have that extra hand, extra heart to really care, and we want to help you to succeed. We want you to know that there's people here to support you, because teachers, they're underpaid and they feel stressed. Some of them stay at school until 8 o'clock at night trying to plan and be there for all of their children, and there's so many children in their classroom. So just to be that support, not only for the children, but for the teachers and the support staff.
Yes, absolutely. Do you see there being some type of support for even superintendents with chaplains?
There probably would be. I think the more people helping out, the better. There's just such an issue, especially in the public schools. And the teachers need all the support and help, and the superintendent even. The superintendent at the school where I was last happened to be our oldest daughter's first grade teacher. So I knew her from a long ways back. And she wouldn't, of course, being the superintendent, you don't want to share that there's issues in the school system, but because I knew her from way back, she could say, I said, so how are you? How are you feeling? And to have something like that, being the school counselor, I could do that, but a lot of people wouldn't ask her that, and she felt like she could share. So I think that would be so important.
Yes, that's great. And so that there's a bit of an argument about, well, if there's an LPC in the room, then there's no need for a chaplain.
I disagree. I'm an LPC, and you can always use more help.
Yes, indeed. Any final thoughts on if someone is thinking about chaplaincy overall? They're probably just first hearing about this and they're not sure what this means for their student or for their district or their school. What last final words would you give them to encourage them?
I think another helping hand and helping heart is wonderful in the school system. Someone who cares about kids and loves them and wants to be a helper. Absolutely. That would be fabulous.
And we all need the help, don't we?
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Brenda. It was such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.